Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Data Standard Audio Experience. My name is Catherine Tao, and today we have Dario Del Giudice, a senior data scientist from a Fortune 500 corporation working in the insurance space and industry. So, welcome to the show, and today we're going to be speaking about common myths between academic research and corporate data science. We're very glad to have you on the show today, Dario. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for the invite, Catherine. Excited to talk to you about data science.
Yeah, so tell us more about your background and what kind of got you interested in data?
Yeah, I would say my story is a little bit unusual in that I went to university planning to become an environmental scientist. I have always been fascinated by nature and how it works and how to optimally use its resources while minimizing pollution. But I noticed as time went by, I found myself more and more drawn to the data analysis aspects of my study and more drawn to the modeling aspects. So after my bachelor, I decided to transition to environmental engineering. I moved to Switzerland. I found a very strong program in numerical ecology and water quality modeling. And I decided to learn more about modeling, and gradually I thought of continuing my research, merging models and data, and decided to pursue a PhD in Bayesian statistics applied to environmental engineering. And actually, I thought I will stay in academia forever. So I started my PhD, I finished my PhD, and I moved to Stanford. I started doing independent research on a variety of issues related to flooding, water quality problems. And at the same time, I was deepening my knowledge in data analysis, both Bayesian data analysis and frequencies, and a variety of supervised learning algorithms. And fast forward a couple of years, now I am working in a very different field of application, which is insurance and finance. And my employment is also very different, is data science within one of the largest US companies. But I would say there is a common thread. And the common thread is that there is data science at the foundation of all this path. Before I was predicting, for instance, the extent of dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico, whereas now I'm forecasting returns of financial assets. Or before I was quantifying the probability of extreme pesticide pollution in rivers, while now I'm quantifying the risk of extreme insurance losses due to rare events, for instance, a pandemic. So I'm actually still fascinated by how versatile statistical modeling techniques can be. And this knowledge can create value in such a variety of fields.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you've been able to have the experience of kind of the academic research and kind of the industry side working. And so why did you choose to transition between going from academia research into more of the corporate industry kind of data science field?
Well, actually, I mentioned that I was planning to continue working in research for a very long time. And I had a nice position at the university, and this position was continually renewed. At the same time, I started talking to a couple of friends. They had recently transitioned from data science in academia to data science in industry. And they talked about how many cool projects they were working on. They were learning a lot of new techniques. And I decided just to keep an open mind. And I started posting my resume on a couple of job sites. At the same time, mostly because it was relevant somewhat for my job, but also because of my passion. I took a lot of classes on deep learning with Keras, neural networks, Python programming, you name it, dashboards with Shiny, visualization methods. And I started posting those certificates online to my LinkedIn page and also to my personal website. And I think in this way, I just gradually started getting noticed, and I started getting contacted through email, LinkedIn. And at one point, there just was an offer that's really clicked with me. It was on risk quantification, system optimization. And I remember this part was about creatively finding solutions to non-standard data challenges while keeping high level of scientific rigor. So that really resonated with me. And also I noticed that the team I would be part of was composed of other smart PhD, previously researchers in academia, now transitioning to data science in industry. So that sounded just overall like an exciting environment to be working on, with a lot of learning opportunities. And fast forward 1 year later, now I'm glad I made that choice, because I'm dealing with so many different applications, different challenges. I have the opportunity to apply a lot of the knowledge I have accumulated in academia, both technical knowledge, but also the ability to independently drive forward a modeling project which does not have an obvious answer, and also the ability to mentor junior data scientists. So overall, it went well for me. I'm excited. I moved to industry. There have been opportunity to expand my skill sets quite a bit, maybe on methods that I had only marginally worked on. And at the same time, I became comfortable with new visualization libraries, new tools for data version control, new programming aspects. So I think it was overall a positive experience in my case.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's between academia and industry corporate life, it's very different in terms of the problems that you have to solve and the tasks that you have to do. And so, what are some common myths that you've seen surrounding this transition between academia and industry in data science?
Yeah, some myths, especially in the academic circles, I would say they are mostly related to technical aspects of data science. For instance, one of the myths I heard a lot when I was still at university, for instance, Stanford, talking to other aspiring data scientists in industry, most people thought that scientific papers that we were writing actually will be very important in your future career. And actually, it was kind of a bit of a waste of time because no one will care about that. And it might be true in some cases, especially if you decide to go on a route that is very different from your research before, or maybe it's not very technical. But in the case instead, if you build some novel methods and you worked on challenging machine learning problems, and then you publish these findings in prestigious international journals, that can be really helpful to present yourself as a unique individual that is an expert and not just has a superficial knowledge of those techniques. So and those papers really give you a tangible proof of your expertise. So I would say, if you have those papers, show them off, don't shy away. And if you don't have them, it's not a big deal, but it's not all your work. It has not been wasted away. You can still make use of that. And actually, I did discuss my papers during the interview for my current position, and I think were quite important elements for them to decide to hire me. And if I think about some other misconception in academic circles, I would say, well, there is the prejudice that all in academia you can do some interesting and creative work, whereas in industry it's mostly reporting and mostly repetitive, boring stuff. And I think it can be true in some cases, but maybe in my case I'm a bit biased because in both industry positions that I held, the work I was doing was really innovative and cutting edge, and I had to creatively find a solution to non-obvious problems. And in the meanwhile, I learned a ton of new skills and achieved tangible results quite quickly without the slow process of writing papers like in academia. So I think if you are interested in doing some creative and new technical work, you can still find those positions in industry. And maybe one last point I would say it's that you hear a lot, especially during your studies, that if you like coding and you actually like doing data science, well, you can do that at the beginning, maybe your initial position. But if you want a respectable permanent position, then you need to become a manager and forget all the fun data analysis stuff, building models, optimizing, predicting, learning about newest algorithms. And I would say that's true for many jobs. And I think this preconception comes from the fact that in academia, if you want to have a permanent position, you need to become a professor most of the time. And professors are mostly managers rather than coding themselves. There are a few exceptions. But instead, if you go in industry and you find a very good data science position, then you can continue to enjoy technical challenges, coding, and you can create a lot of value by using your hard skills.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting that you say. I didn't know that people said that industry things could be boring and very the same, that things are very repetitive. Like, I'm glad that you said that sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it's not. I've heard a lot of
Right.
people also say that in industry, challenges are always coming up. There's always different things that you need to do every day. It's not always repetitive. There's always a new task or deliverable that you need to do. So this sounds like things are always changing, especially being in a technical field. Technology is always changing, and data science is always evolving throughout the years as they go by. More research is coming up. So it's great that you were hearing it from your perspective, being from academia and industry as well. But with that being said, what are some common mispreconceptions regarding this transition that you have heard in these academic circles?
Right. I mentioned about the academic circles before, but if I think, for instance, about some misconceptions that instead you hear outside of academic circles, for instance, you search on websites, videos, or you go to data science workshops, meetups. I would say there are similar types of misconceptions that are at the same time a little bit different. For instance, if you go to networking events, of course, they're going to be a little bit biased because they're going to tell you that networking is going to be essential to get a job. And I would say it can help. For instance, I was contacted by a large bank because a friend referred me. And at the same time, I also know people who were successful with this strategy. Someone, gave their name to an employer, and then the employer contacted them, and that's how they got the job. But I would say don't assume that this is essential. So let's say you don't know anyone who works in the specific subfield of data science that you're interested in, or maybe you don't live in a city that has a huge data science community. Don't lose heart because, if you just have a very strong skill set and you can showcase maybe on your website, maybe a LinkedIn, you can still be contacted, and there are going to be people who maybe don't know you, but find that your background is very interesting for them and you have built hard, valuable skills. Especially if you have objective proofs of those, maybe you have Kaggle competitions, certificates, scientific papers. In that case, networking is a nice add-on, but I would say it's not essential. Maybe another misconception, again, not only in academia, but that's more, I would say, in the world of networking and online, or maybe you go to data science workshops. All the focus right now is about the latest deep learning methods, convolutional neural network for natural language processing, and a lot of buzzwords around AI, artificial intelligence. And so I think those modern methods, they are for sure useful to know, and might be true that some companies, especially if you are in the Silicon Valley, are very focused on those latest shiny tools. But at the same time, I would say, while it's definitely good to have a working knowledge of those latest applications of neural network and deep learning, I see that there isn't enough emphasis on actually in-depth knowledge of classical machine learning methods inspired by statistics. For instance, now there are a lot of packages that very simply do maximum likelihood optimization or linear regression. But the downside of that is that often people don't learn about the complexity that is under the hood. For instance, matrix algebra, maybe the statistical assumptions are not very clear when you just run a line of code, which includes all the analysis in just one function. And I think in this day and age in which the latest shiny object is really artificial intelligence and the latest cool developments, I think that statistically flavored data science has still value. Maybe it's less flashy, maybe it's less trendy, but if that's your background and if you master that aspect of data science really well, that can really distinguish you from other data scientists and bring value to the company where you're going to work, especially if this company is in a more mature field like insurance, biotechnology. They really need people who have a strong statistical background.
Yeah, absolutely. Great insight with everything that you had just mentioned. And so my next question for you is, what advice do you have for those wanting to transition from academia field to the corporate industry?
Well, yeah, I would say based on my experience, as I mentioned before, building a solid foundation of hard skills is going to be essential, especially if you want to work on a more technical job. So learn really well predictive modeling, data analysis, Bayesian methods, programming skills. If your research and your academic work is teaching you all those aspects of data science, that's great. Otherwise, you will need to take initiative and learn those aspects that you are not very much working on a day-to-day basis. For instance, take online classes, or if you are within a university, I remember taking classes at the library about natural language processing. So at the end, I would say the company, according to my experience, wants you to create value. And as a data scientist, the majority of the value that you're going to bring is by building better models, and better means more rigorous, maybe more accurate, maybe providing more insights into what's driving sales or employee performances, maybe predicting future sales or assets in a more accurate way than previously done by less skilled data scientists that preceded you in the past. Well, and before I talked about networking, and I said it's not essential to get a job. So now I'm going to give maybe an advice that sounds contradictory, but it's not really. So it's really true that it's not essential, but at the same time, I would say, hey, if you have the opportunity, I would encourage you to build a community of data scientists. It's going to be helpful. You're going to learn about what skills are most important, which subfield of data science is recruiting the most. And especially if you want to stay in a specific location, I think attending seminars and workshops and networking events in that location can be really helpful. And at the same time, you will meet maybe some people who have just transitioned, and you can ask them about their daily tasks. Do they sound exciting, or was your preconception and idea of building models at the end of the day, when you understand what people actually do day to day, it doesn't sound as exciting at the beginning, or maybe it sounds even more exciting than you thought before? I would say that those are some of the benefits of having a network. And I would say in general, learn about new trends of data science. I mentioned before, don't follow blindly the latest shiny objects. But at the same time, I would say be aware, participate to events, listen to podcasts like this one, and meet like-minded people who are also on their journey of transitioning from data science in academia to a corporate environment. And then I would say at the end, try to find a specific niche or subfield of data science where you feel like you can contribute the most, and you will be very excited to continue to work on, and a field where you can differentiate yourself. So that's the type of advice I will give to an aspiring corporate data scientist.
Yeah, I think that's great. You brought a lot of good points there. And overall, being involved within the community, whether it be listening to podcasts or speaking to people somehow, and just hearing about other people's experiences to know maybe what you're interested in and the niche that you want to work in. So you have great insight there. And we at the Data Standard, we're trying to build a community of data enthusiasts and data thought leaders so that everyone can come together and collaborate and network with each other. So what is something we can do for you?
Well, as I was mentioning, I'm excited about networking opportunities, especially with other professionals in the field of data science, maybe learning about how they are using data, how they are solving challenges in their subfield, and which trends they are observing. And yeah, I'm happy to connect.
Great. And where can everyone find you online to connect with you?
I would say the best place is LinkedIn. You can just type my first and last name, or you can find that at the bottom of this podcast. And yeah, if you want to know more, just search me on LinkedIn. And if you want to know even more, there is a link to my GitHub-based website. So I post there some of my projects and some of the things that I worked on recently. So you might want to have a look at that page as well.
Awesome. And to our viewers, for more information on the Data Standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io, as well as our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn page. We are also sponsored by a company named Pandio. They're a San Diego-based startup working on their Apache Pulsar messaging system to help companies have more streamline of data and be more data-driven. And so learn more about their work at pandio.com. And thank you so much, Dario, for joining us. It was great speaking with you and just hearing more about some common myths that you see within the industry. I think it's interesting to hear more about this that not enough people talk about. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on this.
Thanks, Catherine. That's been fun.